Hello, I'm Rico Cavella, and this is your Ageless Body Self-Care Guide, your operations manual for your human body and for your mind. And today's session is about homeopathy. Now, homeopathy is a healing modality that's been around for centuries, for a really long time, and it's something that I think is so important and so valuable, and you need to know about it. And we're very fortunate today to have our expert, our teacher. Her name is Gabrielle Traub. She is a board certified classical homeopath, and she's owner of San Diego Homeopathy. Her 6-year homeopathic medical degree included double-blind clinical trials on anxiety and difficulty in concentrating. She has taught homeopathy in England, South Africa, Pakistan, Dubai, Australia, and the United States. And she founded World Homeopathy uh, Awareness Week, and she now works in San Diego where she specializes in treating women and children. So Gabrielle, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Rico. Thank you for having me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. So let's get right into it. And for a lot of people who are not really familiar with homeopathy, how do you define homeopathy? And then tell us a little bit about the history of it.
So, homeopathy is a science of healing. It originated in Germany 250 years ago by a German physician, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. And Dr. Hahnemann realized he was very disillusioned with medicine of the time. At that point, they were still, giving high doses of mercury to patients. They were doing bloodletting, and he became so disillusioned with his practice, he actually gave up his practice for a while, and he was fluent in many, many different languages. So he started translating medical journals, and he came across a treatment for malaria using quinine or Peruvian bark. And he found this was very, very interesting because studying chemistry, he knew that quinine actually causes malaria-like symptoms. So he thought, well, how can a substance that actually causes specific symptoms be curative in a similar situation? He also found some excerpts by Hippocrates thousands of years, hundreds of years before, showing that there were two ways of healing: the law of opposites, which we know as allopathy, or the law of similars, like cures like, which has become homeopathy. And because of this interesting concept that a drug can have this biphasic reaction on the system, he started to do hundreds of experiments with known substances to see what kind of symptoms they elicited when given to healthy individuals. And we still do these scientific experiments called provings today. And I'll give you an example of how this can work in both medicine as well as in homeopathy. In medicine, if you give Ritalin to a hyperactive child, it will actually calm them down. But if you give Ritalin to a child or a person who is not hyperactive, it will actually rev them up. It's very similar to cocaine or speed. It will speed them up. And so we see many, many substances in nature have this biphasic reaction or a different reaction depending on who you're giving them to, which is really interesting because in traditional conventional medicine, we give, the same drug to everybody with a condition, not really looking at the individuality or the underlying terrain. So I'll give you an example. We actually, if you take homeopathic doses or even crude doses of coffee, it will have certain symptoms that are elicited. For example, it'll make you more mentally acute. It may cause some insomnia, difficulty sleeping. It may cause a rush of ideas. It helps to wake you up. It may help your digestion. But however, we use homeopathic doses, tiny, tiny doses of coffea cruda that's made from coffee to have the opposite effect. In other words, it can be used in certain cases of insomnia where you feel wired as if you've been drinking coffee the whole night, or it can be used in panic attacks where you kind of feel that kind of wired feeling and palpitations. And so, which is very important because there are many, many different remedies to treat insomnia, not just coffea. You really have to find a good match, looking at the symptoms that are elicited by the substance, matching the symptoms of the patient, and putting them together and trying to find the best match possible. So this law of similars is what is the basis of homeopathy. Now, what Dr. Hahnemann was trying to do is to try to reduce the side effects, because some of the medicines or the substances we use in homeopathy can be very poisonous in their crude form. We use things like aconite and belladonna and arsenicum album, which can be toxic in their gross form. So he found a way to dilute them. Now, if you just simply dilute these substances, they actually just become more dilute and ineffective. But he, by an incredible genius, he was so advanced and ahead of his time. He found a methodology with each serial dilution. He did something called succussion, which is, you can read up more about that. But what happened with succussing it is that with every step of dilution, the remedy, the substance actually acted more deeper in the system, became more profound in the reaction, while reducing the alkaloid content, which causes a lot of the side effects. So he found a way of finding a remedy, a medicine to give to patients with very, very few side effects, which is pretty amazing. And it's safe for babies. I've actually helped with delivery and given remedies to newborns. It's safe during the elderly. It's safe to take while you're taking different medications. There's no interference. There's no addiction. There's no withdrawals. So it really is one of the safest forms of medicine that we have available.
Wow, that's so interesting. Really well explained. So how were all these remedies developed? Through mostly through just clinical trials, or I mean, how did they just keep on coming up with more and more remedies for certain symptoms?
So today we have thousands of homeopathic remedies, and each one had a very stringent proving done on them. Remember, Dr. Hahnemann was German, and the Germans are great with protocols and precisions. It's all about precision medicine. It really is about precision medicine. But over the last 250 years, there are new provings conducted all the time, and they recorded in a specific way. We also know the effects of certain drugs just by their toxicological reports. So we know if people are poisoned by certain plants, or we have this in medicine available. We know about provings of various drugs because we have recorded adverse effects. So we can actually use allopathic drugs and make them into homeopathic remedies. And that can actually sometimes be a very powerful way of reducing side effects that are prolonged after the drug is discontinued. We can actually make homeopathic dilutions of that drug to help.
So I think maybe you've already kind of explained this, but can you talk just a little bit more about how it really works in our body, how it really
Yeah.
creates the effects that we desire?
Absolutely. And I want to refer you to a brilliant researcher. He's actually a immunologist, Dr. Luc Montagnier. He was actually the researcher who received a Nobel laureate for the discovery between HIV and AIDS. And he has an amazing presentation. I can try and find the link for that and post it on here, that goes into detail in the science. He has a hypothesis about how homeopathy works. We don't know exactly how. We just have hypotheses about how it works, but I can give you a simple explanation. So, our body does not communicate with each cell in gross substances. Everything is nanoparticles. Our hormones are minute doses. So, if you give your cells just a tiny amount of thyroid hormone, that can actually cause a cascade of reactions that affects every single cell in our body. Our body, the language of our cells is minute doses. And so when you give a large allopathic drug, that overrides our immune system in many ways. It suppresses very often. So if you give steroids, that will interfere with our body. Our body actually sometimes will create these cytokine or overreaction and use a steroid, and then will just suppress the reaction. However, once you discontinue that drug, there is always a rebound effect. And with any medication you take, even drinking coffee, you'll start off drinking coffee and you'll feel great, and then you need larger and larger and larger doses to get the same effect. And we see this especially in the opiate industry. This is a
Mhm.
huge problem because we don't just have the effect of the drug, we have the after effect, both of our body trying to recover from the drug and the after after effect that it creates. Everything, there is never, you never just give a medication without any kind of aftermath of it. So you want to give medicine in the language of the body, and this is always in small, small dilutions, in nanoparticles, because that's how our body communicates with every single cell. All of our, all of our enzymes are the only example where our body actually uses gross amounts, large amounts. In every other communication form, it's tiny, tiny amounts. So I'll give you an example. Um, Say you are cutting up onions. You may develop a runny nose or teary eyes, or very similar. That's very similar to what you would see in allergies or a common cold. So when we give a patient homeopathic doses of onion, which is allium cepa, it mirrors the symptomatology that the body is already experiencing, and it's almost like it corrects it, mirrors it and corrects it, so it gives it what it's looking for, and so that the body can switch gear and develop homeostasis. It's really it just mirrors exact. It's almost saying that our body's creating an overshooting effect. Our immune system is overreacting, and then it communicates that, it gives it a memo that this is what's happening in the body, and so it can shift. Another example is it can prime the immune system. So it really just mirrors exactly what the body is doing, and then the body kind of goes back into homeostasis. It's working on the level of our hormones, it's working on our amino acids, it's working on our neurologically, on all the different systems of the body.
Wow, thank you. That was really well expressed. I kind of like to say, I don't know if this is, see what you think, but when you take a really high dose of a prescription drug, it's like if you have a bug or a mosquito or something on your finger, and so you take a hammer and you smash the mosquito, but you also smash your thumb, right? Isn't that kind of how prescription drugs work, sort of?
Well, there are a lot of times where prescription drugs are amazing. They save
No, right.
lives. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. And
right.
I'm very thankful we have the prescription drugs available. Modern medicine is incredible when it comes to emergency medicine.
Yeah,
When it
acute
comes to
situations.
acute situations, when it comes to chronic diseases, that's really where it fails. It has not mastered chronic conditions at all. Many patients, when they start off on a drug, then it's a downward spiral. Then they need another drug to deal with the side effects
Yeah.
of those drugs, and then another drug. I'm sure many of you know situations where this happens, where it's just a downward spiral, and it just interferes with our own. People don't forget to realize our bodies are incredible. Our bodies are beautiful. Our ability to heal is perfect. We have to support those natural mechanisms. Our immune system is so complicated. We don't even have begin to understand the very beginnings of how that works. And to just slap on a drug that suppresses all of that, that is not the answer. Maybe it helps in the emergency acute situation, but then we have to look at, what got us there in the first place? Why is our body not able to heal? How can we help support our body to heal naturally? Because, drugs can't play God. We can't mess with that. Our body is infinitely wise and has this amazing mastery in doing that. If we just provide it with the nutrients and the environment and homeopathy, which is beautiful at supporting that.
Again, you express that so well. Uh,
Thank
so,
you.
so why do you think that homeopathy hasn't gained more popularity? Again, well, I think I know it's because it's all about the money, right? There's a lot more money in prescription drugs, right?
Well, homeopathy actually was very, very popular in America. We had a lot of homeopathic medical schools, and a few hundred years ago, it was a leading form of medicine in this
Mm,
country.
mm,
And then politics got involved, and we know how the AMA can work and FDA, and it was competing. It's every time, and we'll see this in natural medicine. This is happening quite a lot recently. Every time we find a natural substance that works really well, and competes with a prescription drug, it gets taken off the market. This is a squashing of anything natural, not just homeopathy. I'm talking about everything that natural medicine has to offer. As soon as it gains too much popularity, it gets squished, and it's purely political. But in many countries around the world, homeopathy is thriving and is
Mhm.
very popular. Like in India, and one of the reasons why it's so popular in India is it is such a cheap form of medicine. It is
Mhm.
so inexpensive. It is so easy to dispense. It is so safe. It's so easy to mass produce. It really is the perfect medicine for mass production because it's so much cheaper. It costs very, very little to manufacture. And in countries like India right now, they are often giving away homeopathic remedies for free to try and help their population. But in other countries like Germany, where it comes from, and Switzerland, it is very, very popular. In fact, the World Health Organization did a study around the world, and homeopathy was the second most used natural medicine, only second to herbal medicine. So, this idea that it's not very popular, if you look on a global scale, it is. It has gained a lot of popularity, and no matter how much they try to get rid of it, it is here to stay. You cannot get rid of something this
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good news, and hopefully it'll keep expanding here in the U.S. And but again, just like I said, it's because big pharma, they're in it for the money situation. They make a lot more money on creating pharmaceutical drugs than they, yeah. So, but
Rico, can I
that's why we're
mention
doing
one
this.
more?
Sure, that's why we're
Right.
doing this to get this message out.
Right. I've been in the United States practicing here since 2002, and I've noticed a dramatic increase in homeopathy. My practice is thriving. We have plenty of patients using it. But the FDA is trying to ban homeopathic remedies being available over the counter. And
Oh,
really, that's such a great source. I have so many moms with kids, and the kids get sick, and they can just rush out in the night and pick up a homeopathic remedy, and it's cheap and it's effective. And really, that's such a great resource for people for all ages, just to have something over the counter, knowing that they can try something that's safe and that won't interfere with other medications.
yeah, that's so good. Well, tell us about a few. What are certain common ailments that you've had really good success with?
So my primary specialty is women's health conditions and children. Treat a lot of hormone imbalance, menopausal symptoms. That's really common, and just a lot of women's issues. Like a lot of women have thyroid complaints or insomnia. Infertility is an area. Women's I certainly treat a lot of men too, but usually it's the women bringing in their husbands that I get to meet the men, and then in children. And the reason why moms love homeopathy for children is because it's so safe, and that's something that people really worry about is the side effects. And I have so many patients in their 80s and they're not taking any prescription medicines just because they don't need them because we've been able to keep them healthy with homeopathy, and they go for their doctor's checkups and they say, "What? You're not taking any prescription medications? How is that possible? You're 70 or 80 years old." And it is possible. It's possible to have vibrant health and be incredibly healthy without needing any medications, even into your 80s and beyond.
Yeah, well, I certainly know that. That's what I've experienced. Whenever I go get a physical, and they say, "Well, list all your drugs here," and I say, "Well, I'm not taking any," and they go, "What?" They can't believe it. It's kind of funny to say. Okay, so for our viewers that are really interested and maybe they want to start to try it, maybe even for the first time, would you say if they just went to the health food store to try, what would be some of the easiest, the most common, uh, little ailments that we have that you think that they could just go and get a homeopathic remedy and would be effective for them?
So I think everybody should have in their home arnica. Arnica
Mm-hmm.
montana is the number one remedy, and it works so well. It's good for any kind of swelling, inflammation, bruising, excessive bleeding. It's great after surgery. Don't give it before surgery. If you give it before surgery, you'll actually bleed more. It's always good to give afterwards because remember, like cures like. The substance can actually cause what it cures. So arnica is just an amazing remedy to have at home. The second remedy that I absolutely love is Ruta graveolens. And Ruta graveolens is really good for overuse injuries. So, right now during the pandemic, everybody's staring at a computer screen and
Mm-hmm.
our eyes are getting sore and our eyes are getting tired. In fact, I had the experience where I needed glasses and I bought prescription glasses and I didn't like wearing them. They didn't feel comfortable for me. Because I was getting headaches all the time. And so I took Ruta Graviolin's 30C, and my headaches went away. My glasses went into the trash can. I didn't need them anymore. Ruta is great for any kind of ligament strain, so
Oh,
overuse injuries, tendonitis, these types of things. And what I recommend people do is try these remedies. And if they're not effective, and certainly, you may need some x-rays or imaging, go see your doctor if you have any trauma, of course. But try these remedies. And if you're not getting results, after a few weeks of using them, then go and see a professional homeopath who can find an individualized remedy because there is some kind of art in choosing the correct remedy for you.
yeah.
Another remedy, which is really great if any of you are hikers out there, and here in San Diego, we have a lot of poison oak, is rust toxicodendron. This is a great remedy for both poison oak, poison ivy exposure, but also stiffness, kind of rheumatic type of conditions. And it won't help every kind of arthritis or rheumatic condition, but it will help about 50%. And so taking rust tox can really help with those like achy joints, especially if they're much better for having a warm shower, warm weather, and especially if they're worse when you first wake up in the morning and then get better as the day goes on. So those are three really, really good ones. Hypericum is another great remedy for injury to nerves, especially in our
Mm-hmm.
nerve rich areas like our fingertips or our tongue or our toes, um, those types of situations. So we actually have some great first aid remedies. Another phenomenal one is Apis mellifica, made from the honeybee. This is really good for insect bites or stings. I know right now I'm working in my garden. I'm trying to grow a vegetable garden during the pandemic, and there's so many bees around, which I love because they're great pollinators. But it's nice to know. I've never been stung by them recently, but it's nice to know that if I get stung by a bee, Apis is phenomenal in bringing down the heat inflammation. So these type of acute first aid conditions, homeopathy can just work wonders in those situations.
I just want to add, for even just like like if you feel like you're getting a cold or even like a little bit of a flu, I can't remember how to say it, but it's called oscillocin.
Oscillococcinum.
Yeah, that stuff
Oscillococcinum.
works really
That's
well. Many times
great. Yeah.
I really felt like I was getting kind of sick, and I take some of those, and the next morning I'm fine. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. Aslacoscinum works great. That's another one you should absolutely have in the home with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
And people don't realize that we treat physical conditions with homeopathy, but we absolutely treat mental and emotion conditions as well. In fact, that's what I did my research on. I conducted double-blind clinical trials on thought interference, nerves, and anxiety. And homeopathy can be great for anxiety and depression and some of those mental and emotional conditions. That's one area where it really, really shines and does well with patients and helping
Yeah, that's so
patients.
important these days too, with
Yeah.
so much anxiety out there and people
So much
being,
stress.
yeah, so much stress. And well, I know you have a new book. You have a new book that's out. In your book, do you have do you do you have certain recommendations for certain illnesses? And
My book is called Right for Your Remedy Type. And Live Right for Your Remedy Type really is for patients who are seeing a homeopath and have been found which is a constitutional homeopathic remedy. In other words, which remedy really helps to boost their immune system, put them in balance mentally, emotionally, physically. That's such a great tool we have in homeopathy is we can actually find a remedy that just helps you overall. And it's really important right now to keep your immune system strong and
Yeah.
healthy. We need to be the best version of ourselves. We need to eat right. We need to exercise. We need to get fresh air. It really is helpful to get a
Sleep.
good homeopathy and sleep.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah.
Stress reduction. I can go on. But to find a good homeopathic remedy that strengthens you, you want to be as strong as you can right now. And that is something best done by a homeopath. But what my book is about is how to support that homeopathic prescription. What diet is best for you? Which form of exercise is best for you? What other forms of modalities would really support you based on your genetic, physiological, physical makeup, which is so individualized to you? And also, it helps us to understand us emotionally. So if you have a patient whose child they have a pulsatilla like child, how to help that child best, what kind of communication is best, what kind of discipline, really how to raise that child. And it also helps us in our relationships. So if you have a partner that is a lycopodium type, how to understand that type, how to really support that type as much as possible. It is, I think, a really valuable book. And I'm so happy to be able to offer this to patients all around the world.
Wow, that is so good. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for that. So I want to remind our viewers that uh, along with with this video training, you get a PDF that has the audio in it and it has the transcription, so you can read all about what Dr. or Gabrielle was talking about. And then also it has all her contact information, so you can go to her website and you can get her new book, and you can, if you need to actually contact her for some help, or just stay connected. And we recommend, you really connect with all of our experts, because they have lots of really good information. They have a lot of free things. They have gifts. They have offers. They have so many good things that you can. So we highly recommend, be sure you check out the PDF that comes with this training as well. So Gabriella, we're down to the very last question here. And this is the hardest one of all. This is the hardest question, but I always got to ask everybody this, because this is the key, because I always like to put out there, that knowledge without action is useless, right? So what ideas do you have to actually get people motivated to try some homeopathy and try some of these remedies, and just act on your advice that you've just given them? What ideas can you get people to motivate to actually go out and do it?
Well, first of all, homeopathy is so safe. You have nothing to lose. It is one of the safest forms of medicine there is. And just try it. You know, as you said, Rico, we can, listen to these things, we can do all the information, but information itself without action is not power. People know what they need to do to lose weight. They know what they need to do to stay healthy. This is just another tool. And for patients who really get into it, you will love it. But be patient. To really heal from the ground up, from the inside out, takes time. It's not like a magic pill that you just take and, all your symptoms instantly go away. It's a process, but I think it's a very important process and a very important tool, especially right now. I would love everybody to use homeopathy right now because it's such a valuable tool. And Rico, thank you so much for creating this. I mean, what you're doing is absolutely amazing. It is helping so many people. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share about what I love.
Well, thank you so much. That was so good and so helpful. So again, yeah, I just want to encourage you. That's what this whole project is all about, is how to best care for your body and your mind. And that's what we really need to do. But again, if you don't take advantage of all these recommendations from Gabriella and all the other experts, it's not going to help you. So we just got to encourage you to step up and take responsibility for your health, and we know you can do it. And I promise you, if you begin to act on some of these recommendations, it's going to greatly improve your overall health and well-being, and you'll be so glad you did. So it's just like the famous saying, you just got to do it. You got to step up and take advantage. So thanks very much for watching, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Bye-bye.